Hello guys, it's Radar here. Today I will be doing a little bit different kind of a video and actually do a commentary. But the commentary is not really going to be about the gameplay you're seeing in the background, which is a Liberation Peak game 53-0. But we're actually going to be talking about the state of vehicles and especially air vehicles in Battlefield 6. And I'm actually going to be giving out my suggestions to DICE on how to fix them. The idea for this video came because I was browsing on X and I saw a tweet from Eddie, Mr. Armored Kill, asking about the vehicles and how we would change them and what features we like and don't like about the vehicles in Battlefield. So that actually got me thinking, and here's basically my suggestions to how to fix air vehicle gameplay in Battlefield 6. First things first, we need to get the basics, and for that we need to get a working air radar into the game. And I mean, it's already over a month since the game released and we still don't have a working air radar for jets or helicopters. And that should be number one priority at this point, to get that working. Without a working air radar, there will never be dogfighting forming into this game, and dogfighting will be just a draw of luck. Or then you have to do the tactics that you can also see in this video, that you actually have to time the enemy jets in their spawn in order for them to not get the jump on you, because you cannot see them on the radar. Second thing I think they should bring back from previous games was the way that the below radar feature worked. In Battlefield 6, below radar doesn't seem to be working half the time. And speaking of lock-ons, one thing I think they should bring back from Battlefield 4 is the way the Igla worked in that game. In Battlefield 4, when you were using the Igla, you had more lock-on range, which was about 650 meters, but you had to hold the lock-on all the time in order for the projectile to hit. As it stands right now, the Stinger is 90 damage to air vehicles, which means that you are basically one hit kill if you have any damage done to you from any sort of weapons. And while I do think that is okay, because it gives the infantry actual deterrent against air vehicles, I think that the lock-on range is way too long for these small maps. The map design does not help at all, because there is really no cover for the air vehicles to go behind, except on the map you're seeing right now, the Liberation Peak. I think that looking at Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, having 500 to 600 meter lock-on range would be good starting point for Battlefield 6 as well, as the maps are basically smaller than in those two games. Sort of the same applies to the laser designators. They should not be able to lock on from 800 meters. And one thing they should not be able to do is to lock on once and then have the laser be activated for like 10-20 seconds after you lose line of sight of the target as well. They should be needing to keep the lock on all the time on the target in order to get the lock on to actually stick. And because they should be nerfing the range of the lock-ons, that one thing they need to actually do as well is to limit the speed of the jets. The jets are just way too fast at the moment for the size of the maps that we are playing on, and they don't really have any reason to be this fast. The next thing applies to air vehicle gameplay as well, but it also applies to ground vehicle gameplay, because the way that the base AA works at the moment is flawed, I think. The fact that the base AA intercepts bombs and missiles coming towards it just means that ground vehicles like the AA vehicle or tanks or IFV can sit in their spawn, not have a really incentive to move forward, because they are protected from all the attacks, be it from air or ground, because the base AA intercepts all kinds of missiles and bombs. I just think that this is bad gameplay design, and it leads to the most valuable objects on your team, being the tanks or the IFV, to sometimes just sit in your spawn, not willing to move, and losing you the whole game. And now that we have mentioned the mobile AA camping in spawn, one thing that needs to be addressed is that the mobile AA is actually the worst AA vehicle in the game. The tanks and IFVs are way better at dealing with their targets than the actual AA vehicle. This comes down to the fact that the tanks and IFVs have the aim guided missile that goes really fast, it moves very agile, and it's pretty easy to hit air targets with. I think the best thing would be to actually disable the aim guided missile from tanks because they really don't need it, and give the AA vehicles main guns some more damage against air vehicles, but don't give more lock-on spam to the AA vehicles. Finally, I think that they should be looking into the glass cannon design of the vehicles at this point. The fact that dogfights end in under a second if you hit a good burst of the main gun to enemy vehicles is just stupid design. This just gives the guy on the receiving end zero chance to actually respond to the fight. Then there's the shocking part that jets don't still have any sort of customization to them. And to launch a game with zero customization for the jets or the attack helicopter's gunner is quite shocking in my opinion. And obviously the chopper gunner needs the TV missile from previous battlefields. I think next I will be giving my thoughts about how I would actually give the loadouts to the jets. So, how would I actually do about the loadouts for the jets? First off, we need to identify that the jets need to be able to strike both air and ground targets in order to help their team. People always talk about jet pilots not contributing anything to their team, while the jet's main job is to be suppressing the enemy team, enemy armor, enemy air vehicles, and keeping them at bay. So basically, the jet won't be capping any flags anytime soon, but it should be helping your own team in order to get the pushes done, and also limit the enemy team from pushing to your objectives. As you can see in this picture, they have already thought about this, at least on some level, as they have given the jet's primary cannon, secondary guided missiles, then flares, aim-guided bombs, and the radar system. So, let's put this into use. On the cannon, you should be able to choose from mixed belt, I think that would be probably the one we are using right now, AG belt and AP belt. The AG should have some splash damage, not to the extent of, let's say, the splash damage of the BF-109G6 in Battlefield 5, but some splash damage, and it should be better against infantry, and obviously the AG would also be better against air vehicles. Then if you want to go full air-to-ground against ground vehicles, you could take the AP belt, that is actually doing more damage to light armor and heavy armor, but does not include any of the splash damage, so if you're trying to shoot at infantry, you need to score direct hits. Then there's the secondary slot that is taken by the lock-on air-to-ground missile. And while I do think that it's a usable option, I think that there needs to be some other options as well. And for this slot, I think about it as a slot 1 that is like the belly of the jet. And for this, I would actually give options for bigger bomb, heavy bomb. At the moment, the bombs we have in the game are 110 kilos, so 240 pound bombs. The heavy bomb could be, for example, 500 or 1000 pounds. As for other options, you could take possibly a cluster bomb or a fire bomb, or then you could take one AA lock-on missile. So basically the slot 1 would act as sort of the specialty item for the jets, giving you one bigger attack, or then the AA missile. As for the slot 2 that is at the moment taken by the 2 freefall bombs, I would give options to 2 medium bombs. I would consider the ones we have in game to be small bombs at the moment, or 2 rocket pods, be it heavy rockets or light rockets from the attack chopper. Giving the players more options that are not lock-on based weapons is good for the game, I think, in general. And giving the rocket pods, for example, or different kinds of bombs would make the gameplay loop a bit more rewarding, and you could actually do your loadouts the way you actually want to do them. Even though I don't think that they will be changing this, they should bring back ECM jammer from Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, so that when they actually get the air radar working, they could have the ECM work just like in previous battlefields, that it actually masks you from the radar as well, giving dogfights even more skill-based level, so that you can use the ECM in order to jam the enemy radar and do a switch on the enemy. It could be so that the flares have a shorter cooldown than the ECM, but the ECM lasts for a bit longer, so you can use that to disable the enemy lock-ons. or then you could use it to actually jam the enemy radar while you are dogfighting and do a switch that way. Some of you have noticed that in this part of the video I haven't been really talking about the stealth jets or the fighter jets as they are called in the game. And there is actually a simple reason for that. I do not actually think that the stealth jets have a place in the game at the moment, at least as they stand right now. Only thing they have going for them is the gimmicky thrust vectoring, which looks cool but isn't really useful if you don't really know what you're doing, and then even then it's just cheesy. And then they have the fast reloading fire and forget AA missiles at the moment. That's the only things they have going for them. And I don't think there is a place for them in the game. Giving the teams 2 attack jets or reverting back to the way it was in the beta that teams only have 1 attack jet is much better in my opinion. Battlefield 3 was probably the best because both of the teams have 2 of the same type of jets, or in the rush game mode you have just 1 jet per team. That was the attack jet. And I think that worked out for that game, and I don't see a reason why it shouldn't work in this one. That also makes it easier for DICE to work on the air vehicles because they don't need to balance so many different kinds of vehicles. And I mean, at this point they haven't even given us unlocks for any of the jets, so they seem to be having a bit of trouble implementing them into the game. So giving the devs just 1 type of a jet to actually try to implement the changes on is better in my opinion. So, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think that there's any reason to actually implement at least some of the changes? Or do you think that the jet gameplay is fine as it is right now? Personally, I think that these changes would mix it up a little bit and make it so that you have more options to give skill-based elements to the jet gameplay.